Hey, morning friends. Welcome to the next edition of Gear Up, the psychometric session. Now, what we would look forward to is today seems to be a sort of bells ringing all over. Seems to be too auspicious, right? When Siddharth was starting, there was the bell, the neighbor who was performing puja, and then when I'm starting, my phone is ringing. Okay, that's a nice way of saying that I forgot to put it on silent mode, but jokes apart, let's begin this in right earnest. Friends, I have, as Siddharth very rightly said, we want to make this as exclusive as possible to learners so that we have quality learning happening. Now, what I would request as part of this session is that some of you had written to us that you like this and you would like to get into individual kind of analysis and things like that. We will get to that, but the objective for us is to first go through this process, and then once you have a certain journey through psychometrics, then we can always look at how we could improvise and make it in a customized manner. On this session, there are a lot of questions that are coming. So one, we would want you to really keep a watch on the kind of questions coming, because some of the questions were repetitive, right? And if you are giving a keen attention to what both Dr. Surabhi and Siddharth are talking, then you will realize that some of the questions are already answered there. And I'm just letting you know so that you don't feel bad that your question is not presented to the speakers in the session. So if you could keep your questions brief, and if you could check if the question has already been addressed by being a little more attentive in the class, that will help. One. Number two, given that we work with a time frame, right? We have very conveniently and happily overshot time and conducted this session beyond 12 noon every Saturday, but we would like to contain it within 12. While I understand it's an expression of interest and enthusiasm, we would still want to stick on to the time. So what I'm going to do is I've requested both Dr. Surabhi and Siddharth to keep their responses brief, and if that warrants an elaboration, we will go more into the elaboration. The intention is to cover as many questions as possible and feel that we have touched and reached out to each of the questioners in this forum. So that's the intent. And with that, Siddharth, I will pass on the baton back to you to take us through this week's psychometrics and the analysis that we have for the day. Over to you. Welcome, Surabhi ma'am. Welcome,
Thank
Siddharth.
you.
And yeah, I think towards the end, I also want to make a quick announcement that towards the end, once the theory is done for today's session, when we go to Q&A, if bandwidth is not a problem, we will also have the pleasure of looking at you. You may want to switch on your video. That will certainly help. We could do videos once we have the Q&A. At this point in time, please remain on mute, and please ensure your video is off so that we give the right platform for the speakers to conduct the theory that they have for you for the day. Thank you. Siddharth, over to you, please.
Thank you, Shashi. A very, very warm welcome to all of you who joined this morning. I'm delighted to have Dr. Surabhi joining in from Jaipur again. Today's session is extremely interesting, exciting one. I am in love with this instrument. It's called role efficacy. I'll give a short introduction to this instrument, and then Dr. Surabhi will get a little more into details of the instrument. So, one of the questions I ask people to see whether they have clarity about this instrument is to ask, hey, what's the difference between a job and a role? This is a question that I ask. So when I ask this question, what happens is people say, they say, oh, job, I don't know, maybe it's both the same, right? Then, that's an opportunity I have to clarify the logic. Now, a job is typically very, very, if you want to put it that way, it's very Western. A role is very Indian, right? I remember Dr. Parikh telling multiple times that India as a society has always been built on roles. Now, what is a role? A role is a summary of expectations. A summary of expectations is, something which is, I take expectations from this role from others around me, all those who are important to me, and those individuals are these days called stakeholders. Those days when the instrument was made, it was called role senders, people who send expectations to the role. Now, the beauty of this entire concept of role is that it also says it is a summation of all the role senders, including the role holder, the individual who's holding the role, right? Now, what does this mean? This means infinite opportunities in any role that one performs. Two HR heads getting probably part of two group companies will have the same job description. A job is prescriptive. It is hierarchical. And it's a position. A role of the same person who's doing that job is as infinite as possible, right? Primarily because the contexts are different, right? The context of a role is different in group company 1 and different in group company 2. Now, what does this mean? This also means that the individual who's occupying that role can have expectations from himself or herself, right? Which in a way improve the role and take it way beyond what other person is looking at. For example, if there's a HR head who's, let us say, great at facilitating groups, right? And he feels that he or she feels that he or she can add a lot more value in his role because he has expectations which are higher or larger than what the other person has, who's probably not as adept at facilitating groups. So this also gives a wonderful meaningfulness to the role that one performs at work, right? So this is probably one of the things. The other is there are two other terms which we might not be covering in the presentation. One is called the role space and the other is called the role set. What is the role space? So take Siddharth, right? So Siddharth is a father, he's a husband, he's a son, he's a son-in-law, he's also a HR head, he's probably a volunteer at NHRD or at GearUp, and then he's a facilitator of all these sessions in GearUp. And Siddharth also is a driving enthusiast. He has a few more hobbies as well. So what happens is all these things make up the role space, right? It is with the individual at the center. The other thing is called the role set. The role set, and my prediction is that in a maximum of 5 years from now, I think it is already over delayed, organizations are going to move away from hierarchies into what are called networks of meaningful roles, right? People have not yet realized the potential of role set. And the role set is basically the different roles in an organization organized in a two-dimensional space. Actually, these days we can get into a three-dimensional space. We have the computing power for it. With the sizes of roles as circles and the distance from each other, showing how closely they are associated. Having said so, the focus today is to understand roles. And one of the things in roles is this thing called role efficacy. It's not a spelling mistake. It is not role effectiveness. It is role efficacy. And the efficacy is a powerful term, which ma'am will explain a lot in detail. However, you will need to understand the term and almost put it into every cell of your being. That's when you'll find meaning in this particular definition. The definition of role efficacy is the potential that an individual perceives, right? The potential an individual perceives to be effective in that particular role. So it is not potential of the role. No. Hello. You left out a very important part. It is about potential an individual perceives. So an individual can perceive less potential in the role, and he or she can be worked with, and then that potential of being effective in the role goes up. And that is the magic and the power hidden in this instrument, right? There are 10 different dimensions in this instrument. Ma'am will be explaining each one of those in detail. Each of those, you would have got those as well. And this is a powerful tool, very powerful tool to hold HR one-on-ones in the organization. If you start using this, we have automated that already. You don't have to sit and break your head to automate it. all you need to do is reach out to us, put a mail saying that so and so from this organization, we are having an intervention. All these people are going to answer it. We will send you the link and you can share it. And after that, they will all get a individual email, much like you have got. Or you can tell us, no, you want all the emails only to yourself. Okay, we can figure that out also. So you will get all the emails. You can print it out. You can run wonderful workshops online, offline, whatever you want to do, right? So the idea is not to be restrictive here because this is a smaller group. We want you guys to really, paint the town red. I think that is the expression, right? So we want you to paint the town RES, or role efficacy scale, right? We will also get into scoring. What does the scoring mean and so on, very much in detail, right? I'm going to share the screen now and invite Surabhi ma'am to take it forward, right? Ma'am, as and when I need an opportunity to share something, I'll probably wave out to you.
Okay, sure.
And then, I'll request for that little space to present something. Over to you. The presentation is live.
Thank you, Shashi, and thank you, Siddharth, for explaining so beautifully the meaning of role. I think, as you said, role efficacy is a very powerful tool. And I'm very happy and delighted to share that, as we already mentioned, that every instrument is based on some theory. And this theory, particularly role efficacy, has been developed by Uday Parikh. So this instrument is totally based on his theory, role efficacy. And it is a very important theory, very powerful theory. So role efficacy, now every individual occupies and plays several roles in a society. Now, as Siddharth said, it can be daughter, mother, father, executive, HR, whatever. So role actually is a position which one occupies in a social system as defined by the functions one performs in response to the expectations of the significant members of the system and one's own expectations from that position or office. Siddharth has already explained this because these are the senders. Senders plus role occupant, the expectations of the role occupant plus senders. This makes the role because we define our own role. It is not defined by the organization. As already explained, the difference between the job and the role, there is a difference because job is hierarchical, it is prescriptive, role is designed by the person himself. So when role and the self gets integrated, the efficacy of the person increases. Now, role efficacy is the potential effectiveness of an individual occupying a particular role in an organization. Whenever we talk about role efficacy, it is in context with the organization. Of course, we also talk about self-efficacy, personal efficacy, but that is in relation to the personal and interpersonal relations that we have around us. So role efficacy is whatever potential you have to perceive that you have that capability, and how you perceive your role is very important. So this is how you occupy a particular role in an organization. Yes. Now, role efficacy can be measured through various dimensions. We have various tools for measuring role efficacy. One is the role essays. We usually give essays to write to the respondent, that he has to complete an essay of 500 words. And then on the basis of these dimensions, we analyze the essay. Then we have role efficacy differential, in which two bipolar opposites adjectives are used and one has to be chosen. It's either a 7-point scale or a 9-point scale. Then we have a role efficacy scale, which we are using for this particular session. Now, role efficacy can be measured through 3 aspects. Now, the 3 aspects contain 10 dimensions. Role making has 4, role centering has 3, and role linking again has 3 dimensions. Now, yeah, next please. Now, here in this slide, we can see that these are the 3 aspects of role efficacy: role making, role centering, and role linking. Now, in role making, we have role making means how do you make your role? How do you define your role? Either you take up the role as given by others, or you design your own role. You make your own role. See, a role is something that you can design on your own, because nobody specifies the role that you have to do. It is you that who designs the role. Role centering is something, if you feel that your role is very, very important to the organization, you feel very important, then the role efficacy is likely to be very high. But if you feel that your role is peripheral, it is not important to the organization at all, then you feel that then your role efficacy is likely to be low. Then role linking is having linkages with other departments in the organization. So when we have other linkages with other departments in the organization, our role efficacy is likely to be high, because we cannot work in isolation. We need to work in collaboration with other departments. So this is very, very important. So either we take help from others, or we also give help. We work together as teams also. This is very important. So next, please. Now, coming to the role making part, as we already said, that role making is either we take up the role as given by you, or you make the role, you design the role. So a better way is to design the role according to your abilities. Now, every person has some strengths, experiences, technical training, special skills. He may have some unique contributions to make. The more the role a person occupies provides an opportunity for the use of such special strengths, the higher the efficacy is likely to be. If the person doesn't get opportunities to use his skills, training, then his efficacy would likely to be low. Now, a person, one person in an organization was promoted to a higher position. I'm not naming the organizations at all points, just to maintain a certain degree of anonymity. Now, this person was promoted to a higher position. He was very happy because this was seen as a coveted reward. And he took up the position, new position, very happily and was very glad. But later, soon, he realized that he had nothing to do in this,
when you're speaking, I want you to come fully on the screen. So I just
okay.
Yeah.
So while am I on the screen right now? Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Now this person was promoted to a higher position, and this was seen as a coveted reward. He was very, very happy. But soon he realized that he was not able to use his competence skills, his counseling skills, his training skills in the new position. So his efficacy went down. So the role efficacy level went down, whereas in the previous position, his efficacy was high. Then after the role was redesigned for this person according to his strengths and skills, then again his role efficacy went high up. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. This basic thing means that self and the role integration. What does the self mean? I bring in unique skills. I bring in unique strengths. I also bring in something called my own values and conditionings over my lifetime. Right. So, for example, I can give you an example of an individual who was a very, very strict vegetarian. And this was in the government services around 10-15 years ago. And, he was very happy because he was then moved into the agricultural department, right? Very senior position. So he felt, the role was great. He could work on agri in the country and so on. But then looks like it also comes with poultry and so on, right? So then what happened is there was a outbreak of chicken flu or whatever that was, right? And he had to go to the Northeast to kill some millions of birds. He felt terrible about it. Then he started wondering, hey, can I ever be successful in this? But then once again, he started working on farming and stuff like that. He found that the self and the role were getting a lot more integrated. Right? So his efficacy went up. He thought he could do a lot more. And of course, he achieved a lot. So like the example ma'am gave also, often, I mean, you take the example of a great teacher who then becomes, is promoted to becoming a vice principal or a principal. This individual doesn't get so much time to stay with students, doesn't get too much time for research. It becomes an administrative role. Of course, the money may be a little higher, but then the self-role integration often happens, often doesn't happen. That will be covered in one more instrument called a role stress instrument. We might do that next week or the week after that. But then what the point in role efficacy is, when it all comes together, the efficacy goes up. An individual feels he or she can do so much more in the role, right? Ma'am, I'm going to share the screen shortly. And here you
Sure.
go, over to you.
Yeah. So the second dimension in role making is proactivity. What does proactivity mean? It means taking initiative. Either we wait, we respond to what others are saying, or we take initiative. We prevent by taking initiative, we can prevent so many things, so many mishaps. Like a person who is occupying a role responds to various expectations people in the organization have from that role. This definitely gives him also satisfaction and others also satisfaction in the organization. However, if he's also to take initiative in starting some activity, his efficacy will be higher. And if he doesn't become proactive, his efficacy is likely to be low. So one really needs to be proactive in his own role. He needs to create situations where he can be proactive. In organization, in various life situations, we can see some people just respond to what others are saying. They simply react to what others are saying. They hardly take initiative. So just for an example, let's say a person who can foresee that there is going to be a flooding, he just amends the waterproofing and all that, just to. So this is a kind of proactive behavior where you can really foresee or take initiative, do the things beforehand, and this is certainly going to give the person happiness, and he will be very happy and satisfied. And so once he is happy and satisfied, his role efficacy is likely to be high. So this is proactivity versus reactivity. Yeah. The next dimension, and again this is a part of self-making, is creativity. We all know what creativity is, having various ideas. So either we are creative or we do the routine jobs. So if a person is doing a routine job, everyone gets bored. One doesn't like to do the routine jobs. But you have an opportunity to do something creative in your organization. You feel very happy and you have something to contribute to the organization. You feel so happy. This increases the role efficacy of the person. So an opportunity to try new and unconventional ways of solving problems, or an opportunity to be creativity, is very important. Definitely it the organization also benefits by the creativity of the people, and this makes others also happy and that person also happy. Just in one of the state government departments, some clerical job employees met as a part of the reorganization experiment, and they met to discuss a problem, how delays can be cut in processing papers. And the results were amazing. They all came out with new solutions to the problem, and the delays in processing papers were greatly cut. So, and they were rewarded for that, awarded for that. And this really increased the efficacy of the organization as well as the role efficacy of the persons. In another, there's another example in, again, I'm saying, I'm not naming the employees, the banks or the organizations that we have worked. Now, in one of the banks, based on the employee suggestion, the bank started working on the employee suggestion. And with the suggestion of the employee, they were amazed to find recurring savings, large number of recurring savings. So as a part of the reward part of the savings was given to that person, to the employee who gave the suggestions, and it was accepted. In another bank, one employee gave suggestions, but it was filed away. So it is important that how well the suggestions are given and how well you take the suggestions. If you feel that suggestions are good, one should not hesitate to accept the suggestions from the employees. It be subordinates, doesn't matter. So if the suggestions are good, if they are acceptable, they are helping in the organization, one can readily and easily accept the suggestions given by the persons. So this is a good example of creativity. So one really needs to have new ideas, do something new, be creative, and it should not be a routine job. So once we are into the routine jobs, it becomes monotony and person stops enjoying that job. Yeah. Next, please. Next, please. Next slide.
It's there, ma'am. It's on confrontation now.
Okay. Sorry. I could not see it. Yeah. Now, the fourth dimension, again, which is very, very important on role making, is the confrontation. Confrontation versus avoidance. Now, let me share that confrontation. Because we have conducted so many surveys, we have conducted so many researches, we have found that confrontation is very, very low in Indians, be it the managers, be it the employees, be it the bank employees, be it the principals, teachers. So confrontation is usually found low. We have a tendency to either avoid the situation. How do we avoid the situation? We move away from we have the withdrawal. We withdraw from the situation, or we pass on the problem to the others. We hardly confront the problem. We do not discuss the problem with others. We confront the person, whereas we should not confront the person. We should confront the issue. So there is a very few number of people who can really confront the issue, not the person. Now, in general, people in an organization avoid problems or shift their problems onto some other people to solve them. Their role efficacy becomes very low because they are shifting their problems onto others. To confront general problems, to find relevant solutions contributes to efficacy. So one should, or the group should sit together, find relevant solutions to the problems, find out what can be done for this problem. So this will contribute to role efficacy. Whereas if you are avoiding or just withdrawing from the situation, it is not solving the problem. We have various ways in which we can really avoid either we deny, we withdraw, or just pass on the problem onto others. So confrontation, we really need to develop confrontation. If we confront the situation, I think half of the problems are resolved. So this is very, very important. So these are the 4 dimensions of role making versus role taking. How we can really design the role or how we can really make our role. Next, please. Next aspect is.
Ma'am, I'm going to
yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. See, ma'am gives some of these very powerful terms in a very subtle way. So she used these wonderful 2 terms called role making and role taking. This is the crux of personal satisfaction and growth for any individual, right? Now we spoke about expectations, right? Now expectations are those which are given to you, right? Boss calls and gives you expectations. Acha, ye karna hai, wo karna hai. Or if you're a business partner, you're called one day and told, go to all your business heads and figure out what they want, right? So that is one way. So what is happening is when something is given, you take it. When over and above that, if you want to create something in your own role theory gives you that wonderful sense and that large canvas to actually make your own role. And this is because of the way the theory is constructed, because it says it includes expectations from oneself, right? Now, as an individual professional, if I want to do something, I can always make my own role, right? And while making my own role, if let us say I find that there is an issue with someone else, then this definition of confrontation is beautiful. Now, confrontation, it sounds like a Mahabharata war, right? It sounds very dangerous and scary, but actually it's one of the better things in making role effective. Confrontation is never between two individuals, right? It is always on issues. So we can confront on an issue, but our relationship remains awesome, right? And hence, how do you do this? Once you understand this theory, you can actually become a much more effective professional, even in HR. Let us say some manager wants to, give an offer to a new joiner, and you find that it's a little higher than what should be given. Instead of saying, "I think you are wrong," that becomes a conflict, right? Because it is between you and me. Egos are involved. Instead, you go to the same side as a person and say, "Hey, from where we stand, we see this issue, right? You're talking about the issue that you want to give this offer, which is higher. And this is my point of view. Let's now not talk about what you want and I want. Let us talk about the issue at hand," right? Automatically, the focus goes from conflicts to collaboration, right? So confrontation is a very good word. So don't think that, oh, confrontation is high, the guy is fighting with everybody. No, 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 no. The guy is effective because he's able to look at issues and solve problems at hand, right? Over to ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the next aspect we are going to talk about is centrality. Now, role centrality. How important the person perceives his role to be. Does he think that his role is important, or does he feel that his role is not important at all in the organization? Now, if a person occupying a particular role in the organization generally feels that the role he occupies is central in the organization, his role efficacy is likely to be high. But if a person feels that his role is not important in the organization, his role efficacy is likely to be low. Now, this is totally how the person perceives his role. So it all depends on the person also and how he takes up the role. I'll just give you a small example. In one of the big hospitals, the ward boys, low-level employees, after joining the hospital, they were very, very happy. And they used to bring their friends from the nearby villages to show the place where they worked. They were so delighted, happy. They would tell their friends, "See, this is a place I work, such a big hospital," and all that. But soon what happened, they were found, in a few months, they were found gossiping here and there. We could see that they had no interest in their job, in their role. Now, the investigation of these employees showed that they, after a few months of their joining, they realized that their role was not important at all. They said, "Our role is not important for the organization. We have nothing to do here." It was peripheral. It was not important at all. So these, after the perception they had about the role being unimportant, they started gossiping here and there, and they showed no interest in their roles. Similarly, we can say one very, very important example, one CEO from a large company. Now, he would take great pride in introducing his car drivers to the organization. Whenever there was a meeting, he would always call his car drivers and make them a part of the meeting. Now he would tell the gathering, and he would take great pride in to tell the gathering in meetings. See, nobody has the type of car drivers I have. The moment you are out of the organization, every car driver is available with his car outside the organization. I think I am the most lucky person to have such drivers. And the role efficacy of the drivers was really very, very high, because every time even during the discussions, even during the meetings, they were called, they were given due importance, and the drivers felt that their role is so central, their role is so important for the organization, and they would do their best. Whatever they could do, they did their best. And once the CEO even said, even the minister's drivers are not so good as my people from other people from the organization step out, the drivers are available. So this is a kind of centrality that one requires. One really needs to perceive that his role is so important. Then another example, centrality is again important when it is linked to the other things or other parts in the department. For example, like medical facilities which we are providing in the hospital is linked to good nursing abilities or nursing help. So if medical facility is good, it is definitely linked to good nursing facilities also. So in this way, centrality is very important aspect. Even the trainers who train millions of people, thousands of people, if they are given freedom, total freedom, you make your own syllabus, you train the people as you like, the person feels very important. I have been given freedom. I'm central. I'm so important that I'm training so many people nationwide, even internationally wide. I'm training so many people. So this is the kind of centrality, or this is the kind of importance that one needs to perceive in the organization. If one feels, one perceives that his role is important in the organization, one will definitely have high role efficacy. Yeah, next please. I think I'm making myself clear for all the aspects. The again, this one is another dimension for centrality. Now, influence. Influence is very important. A related concept is that of influence. How really we can impact people. Influence means impacting people, having power. Either you feel powerless or you feel you have some influence to move people in the desired direction. That is influence. That is the kind of influence. A good leader is very influential. The more influence a person is able to exercise in that role, the higher the role efficacy is likely to be. But if the person feels that he is powerless, he doesn't have he cannot influence anybody in the organization, he doesn't have any power at all, his efficacy is likely to be low. In one of the hospitals, a gatekeeper was trained to screen visitors outside the visiting hours. Now, this gatekeeper, it was totally his discretion whom to allow inside the hospital and whom not to allow inside the hospital outside the visiting hours. He would refer a case to the nurses, doctors, superiors, and all, only in special cases or for clarification. And totally, he was given total freedom. So if a person is given freedom to take his own decision, he is able to influence other people also in a great way. So freedom is very important to make others influence. So now the gatekeeper felt very happy, because being a gatekeeper, somebody may think he is only a gatekeeper, what to do. But such an important role was given to him, and it was given importance and total freedom, and it was totally his discretion. So influence is very important. Now all these dimensions I'm talking about, all these aspects I'm talking about, uh, contribute a great deal to role efficacy. These are 10. Now next please. Next dimension for, again, for role centrality is personal growth. Now this is so important for even in the various organizations, may it be schools, colleges, hospitals, organizations, anywhere. First, everyone wants to grow. So one factor which contributes effectively to the role efficacy is the perception that the role provides the individual an opportunity to grow and develop. So now when one feels that he doesn't have an opportunity to grow in the role that he's occupying, his role efficacy is likely to be low. Now, one head of an institute took a big financial cut and changed his position. From a manager, he came down to a faculty. He took a financial cut because he found that there was no opportunity for personal growth in his previous position as a head. So he did not mind taking a financial cut. He went to a lower position, but he was enjoying that faculty position because he was given more opportunities in that role. And personal growth can be enhanced even by the organization also. We can organize various training programs, various seminars, various workshops. We really help in the personal growth of an individual. Now we can see many people moving from private to public sectors. Why? Because in the private sector, usually people find there is no opportunity for personal growth. So they are moving to the public sector. So this is personal growth versus stagnation. If the person doesn't grow personally, he feels that I'm stagnated. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So there is, also the example of individuals who might be very close to people of power, right? The role may be very powerful, like let's say an executive secretary. So what happens in these roles is the role is very powerful, but the individual doesn't feel that he or she is actually growing as a person, right? The person will do the same job for so many years, and then given a choice, they actually jump jobs. They say, "Arey, yahan pe I can't do anything because I know so many of the company's secrets. I cannot be put in any other department. People will, start asking me for all kinds of details. So it's easier to change a job." There is also, it's very useful while analyzing results on personal growth to ask an individual, "Hey, are you feeling like a rechargeable battery, or are you feeling like a usable cell?" Right? If the person is feeling that the job is a rechargeable battery, it means that they are also learning, they're growing on the job. On the other hand, if it is only a use and throw kind of a job design, then the person is being used, but they don't see any further growth. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, this is the third and the last aspect, which is inter-role linkages. Now, inter-role linkages are very, very important. The last aspect also, we have three kinds of role linkages. We have three dimensions. The first one is inter-role linkages. Linkages means having collaboration with other people, other departments. Linkage of one's role with other roles in the organization increases efficacy. If there is a joint effort in understanding problems, finding solutions, etc., the efficacy of the various roles would be high. Of course, the presumption is that people already know their work effectively. They know what to do. So without the collaboration, without the linkages, one cannot work in the organization. So it is very, very important to have linkages. Now, this can be, of course, done at three levels: feeling level, thinking level, and action level. Feeling is you really empathize with the other people in the organization, you empathize with the other people in the other departments. Then you think about it, how it can be done, and then you take action. So like sales would be collaborated with, sales may have linkages with production, production may have linkages with sales marketing part. So all these, so there is inter-role linkages. Without linkages, the organizations cannot work effectively. And once the person has chances for inter-role linkages, that he is being, has linkages with other roles in the organization, his efficacy is likely to be high. Yeah. Another important dimension, and this is found to be very high, I think, amongst in this group also, as we were just looking at the scores that we received, that generally people are high on helping relationship. So either you feel hostile or you tend to have a helping relationship. Now, in addition to the inter-role linkages, the opportunity for people to receive and give help also increases the efficacy. If a person performing a particular role feels that they can get help from some source in the organization, whenever they have such a need, they are likely to have higher role efficacy. So helping relationship can be of two types. One is that the person is sure and feels happy and is knows that whenever he needs help from the other people in the organization, the help is always available and he gets the help. Another is that whenever other people in the organization are requesting him for help, he is also providing help. So seeking and rendering help, both the dimensions are very, very important for helping relationship. Now, in any kind of organization, without having a helping relationship, we cannot survive, because at every and each point, we need to help each other. Yes, we need to help each other. We may be needing help, we may be giving help. Yeah, Siddharth.
Thank you, ma'am. If you're talking to people, right, and they say everything is fine, but something's not okay, also check if they are getting an opportunity to help each other out. Right? They may be getting help, but if an individual is not able to give help, that's also a potential of the role can go down, right? So that's the point on helping relationship, superordination.
Yeah, I think this is the most important uh, aspect, I would say, and very, very, it is difficult to achieve, and very few people have this superordinate goals. So what does it mean actually? A role may have linkages with systems, groups, and entities beyond the organization. Now we have some goals beyond the organization. When a person performing a particular role feels that what he does as a part of his role is likely to be of value to a larger group, his efficacy is likely to be higher. So a person, if his goal is higher, it goes beyond the entity, beyond the organization, he has a superordinate goal and his role efficacy is likely to be high. I was just mentioning the example of a trainer who really is training people at a larger scale, goes beyond the organization, is training trainers nationwide or internationally wide. He has a superordinate goal. So superordinate goal is very important. People who are serving the society, for example, people holding, eye donation camps and so on, so on. So people who serve the society, who are working for the society, who are not working just for their own organization, for their own society, but they are working for a larger cause. They have a larger cause to work for. This is superordination. I'll just give you a simple example. And again, this is how you perceive your role. Uh, a famous story about three cutters. The first cutter was not happy about cutting the stone, because he felt because I'm just cutting the stone, so I'm not doing anything much, I'm just cutting the stone, nothing much to do about it, so nothing great about it. The second cutter was happy. He said, I'm cutting the stone to make a temple. So the second cutter had this kind of perception that I'm cutting the stone to make a temple. A temple would be made out of what I cut. So my role is important. And the third cutter had a superordinate goal. He said, I am making idols. I am making idols for the temple. Now these idols would be placed in that temple, and many people would be coming to visit the temple. So when we talk about superordinate goals, it means that for the organization also, we have a larger goal, that we are serving to so many, catering to so many customers. So this is superordination. So one must have a superordinate goal. Yes. Next, please. Now, see, we have covered these 10 dimensions, 10 aspects of role efficacy. I hope you all have understood them very well. Now, every aspect needs some attention and how it can be increased. Before that, I think Siddharth wants to say something.
Yeah, thank you. We've covered 10 aspects of role efficacy. Probably you're finding it quite a handful. Because anything over 5 or 6, the human brain says, oh, there are too many, but it's okay. Stay with it, stay with the feeling, and go over stuff again. If you've already bought the book, you'll find it very, very easy to actually read out, the descriptions of the role efficacy that will be there. Again, we are not trying to sell the book, but the fact is, it's useful for people who already bought the book to have a look at it. If we look at increasing role efficacy, there are various ways of increasing role efficacy, right? For self-role integration, there is a way. We are just going to run very quickly because we are running a little short of time here. Ma'am, with your permission, I'll run through them quite fast.
Sure.
Yeah,
no problem.
So basically, what does self-role integration mean is working with employees to redesign their own present roles. See whether there are strengths that an employee has. See whether across the job movements are possible, so on and so forth, right? And see whether there are misfits in the job. Look at proactivity. Proactivity is basically taking initiative. Minimizing, how can I increase proactivity? For example, run an engagement survey where you look at the items which are linked to proactivity. Are employees allowed to be proactive, or are their managers not allowing them to do that, right? And also design reward and recognition systems that increase the initiative taking behaviors of employees. Listen to employees, give respect to their views, and so on, right? So this is basically taking feedback and quickly checking whether it's happening. Creativity. So creativity need not be only, a innovation scheme or a suggestion scheme, right? It can also mean things like have activities that improve the right brain thinking of employees, right? It could be a little bit of painting. It could be, other stuff that HR is sometimes fired about rangoli making and stuff. But you can actually use some of these as creativity enhancement tools, especially in role efficacy. Confrontation. This is very helpful when solving issues. When you're talking to employees, you can also check with them very quickly during your HR one-on-ones. Hey, are you able to talk about issues openly and solve them instead of are you scared and not being able to talk about things? Yeah, so encourage employees to bring problems, encourage subordinates to solve problems, and tell that, right? Now, centrality is, let's say a person doesn't feel good about the role at all. Then when you're having your chat with the employee, you can actually tell, hey, how important it is. If your job is not there, the downstream is going to get affected, the upstream is going to get affected. And hence, how can you work better? How can you improve your own role? And this is some introspection that each of you can do for yourself in your present role, looking at your role efficacy scores. We'll tell you very shortly how that happens. Influence is, these are some tips, right? Delegating enough authority, being willing to accept mistakes, and so on. But the fundamental thing about influence is see whether the climate of your company allows people to influence senior management. If not, work with your senior management to see whether they are also having the opportunity to influence. Now, influence need not be on major projects where $1 million need to be invested. It can be very small ideas, and in fact have influence circles where give me your idea kind of a thing. This will impact multiple dimensions of role efficacy, right? Personal growth, of course, things like appreciation, do not snub the person, but more and more it is about asking whether the person has been growing. Which area would the person like to learn a little more? So these are invitations that you can extend to employees. Inter-role linkage. Inter-role linkage is about whether people feel their jobs are connected, or they are all on their own in islands working and so on. You can actually have work discussion sessions. You can get people to talk about, hey, how is my role impacting you? How can I help you better? How can you help me better, right? This will impact both inter-role linkage as well as helping relationships. And helping need not go only at the workplace, right? If you have something slightly more like going out and helping society, going to, let us say, animal shelter, for example, right? Make it a part of an initiative at the workplace, it will help both helping relationship as well as something called superordination. Superordination, I'll give you an example. When I've been working in some of these companies that were into healthcare, I found that nursing role efficacy scores were always through the roof. And you know why? Because they are saving lives, right? At the same time, if you work with biomedical engineers in the same hospital, you'll find that there is some opportunity for counseling there, right? Because they are so bothered about stress and getting the equipment ready and so on. They're running around, right? So sitting and working with them, telling them that, hey, you're actually saving lives of patients. You're helping the society. This kind of stuff is very, very useful. Some of you will ask, hey, I work in IT, software engineers and superordination, what? No connection. No, actually there will be a connection. The opportunity for you there is to look at what is the kind of project the individual is working on and link that and see whether that is having a larger positive impact on society, right? Even in areas such as weapons, right, and ammunition, you will say, what is this? Our weapons are used to kill people, and you are saying superordination. You can always see the good in it, and you'll be able to give the employees a better picture, saying, hey, you're creating weapons, but these weapons actually prevent wars. Because if a country does have a decent stockpile of weapons, others don't get into war with that country, right? So even in such a difficult situation as weapons, you can always find a dimension of superordination in it. This is the mean and standard deviation of your scores that you were having. I'll just skip this for a moment because I had, ma'am, maybe you want to share this. Do you want to go into scoring? I don't think so, right?
I think we'll just show them the pattern of scoring, how we have actually scored.
Sure. We'll just do that in a moment.
Yeah.
We'll just do that in a moment.
Siddharth, do you want to tell people what standard deviation is for a moment?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll just finish this and okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Okay. So thank you for that, Shashi. I don't know if you're able to see the screen though. One second. I don't think so. I've not shared. So RE is your role efficacy score. You would have all got a personalized mail with the role efficacy score and something called role efficacy index, or RI also sometimes it's called. Now, role efficacy is, we have taken the mean of all the role efficacy scores from our entire cohort, and we've got a mean of 27. So these the score can vary from -20 to +40. We've seen a score of around 27, and when converted into a percentage kind of a thing, it means that overall this group seems to have a 78%. You feel that you are able to hit the maximum potential of your role. 78% of maximum potential effectiveness in the role is being perceived by you. That's what this means. There's a standard deviation of 10.5, and on the role efficacy index there's a 17%. It basically means a spread of the distribution. You can always look up something on standard deviation to see what it means. Ma'am, is there something you want to add here?
No, I don't think so, because I think it's very difficult to explain the concept of standard deviation. One has really, I think most of the people, if they are from university, they may be understanding the concept of mean and standard deviation. We cannot explain the concept of standard deviation as such right now. But as you said, it is just a spread of the mean, how far the means are spreading, that is 17%. And role efficacy index, we have a formula of for calculating role efficacy index through our role efficacy score. It is not that it is being converted into percentage. We have a certain formula for that based on our scores. Yeah, we can explain that later. I think it's going to take time otherwise.
Sure. So what I'll also do is, I'm hoping all of you are on the WhatsApp group. So I will share 1 or 2 YouTube videos on what is standard deviation, what is mean, and so on. That will give you a fair enough grasp of the concept. So as of now, just understand that if the mean is here, there are scores all around, close by, far away, and so on. And a measure of that spread is the standard deviation. Yeah, so this is how the scoring is done. For those of you who have the book, all this is in the book. For those of you who don't have, this will give you a sense of, hey, how have you got your scores, right? So there are particular items. Each of your items have, for example, item number 1 has if it is there are different ways in which A, B, and C have been taken. There shouldn't be a plus or a minus here. These are possibly item ones. If I missed that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, these are the items. 1 and 11 are belong to the centrality. Then 2 and 12 are from integration, like that.
yeah, absolutely. So the 1 and 11 belong to centrality. For example, 4 and 14 belong to creativity and so on. So this is how we added. So based on whether your response was A, B, or C, the appropriate number was taken and added, and that's how you got your scores on each of the dimensions. If you now look at your scores, you will find that they vary from -2 to +4. And that is because, let us say in centrality, you had selected C and C, it would have become -1 and -1 is -2, 2 plus 4, where you have selected A and A, where it is 2 plus 2, right? So it can vary between any one of these. What it actually means is, if let us say your centrality is very low, then you can always catch up with one of us and say, how do I improve centrality, right? Can I, I need a little help, or I want to have a quick discussion about, a helping relationship and so on. In the second part of today's session, we will open up the session to all of you. And if there are specific individual things, you can always discuss, with the forum, which will be, of course, very helpful to you. Ma'am, may I move on?
Yeah. Siddharth, I'd just like to add that as of now, you can just look at your REI scores index and see if you have a index REI of 30, it means you are low on role efficacy. If you have a score of 30 to 60, then you are average. And if you have a score of 61 to 80, then you are high on it, and 81 to 100 is very high. So you can just see where you stand, and then you can improve upon the dimensions aspects that you are low on. Yeah. Then again, for this, we have a software which is of 13 pages, which tells you what role efficacy is, what you can do to improve how you are low, what can be done to improve your dimensions. Yeah. Then before we go into the Q&A, let's see, various researches have also been conducted on role efficacy, a large number of, and Siddharth has conducted a number of researches on role efficacy. He knows it very well. So in general, I would say that role efficacy has been found to be correlated. If role efficacy is high, the person is low on role stress, just to name a few, low on anxiety, and low on work-related tensions. He doesn't have work-related tensions. And then the quality of work is also high. If the person is high on role efficacy, he has internal locus of control. So positively highly correlated with internal locus of control, whereas negatively related with external locus of control. And then, of course, role satisfaction is an important aspect. If a person is high on role efficacy, the role satisfaction is also high, just to name a few. But there many other researches are also there, just I'm naming a few. And just for the knowledge, I would just like to mention 2-3 things that uses, why do we need to use the role efficacy scale at all? Just this is required for clarification and team building, because we all are working in teams in the organization. So just to clarify, for the clarification of team building, then for coaching the key managers and problem identifications, and of course training managers and supervisors. So much more to say for role efficacy, but I think because we are running short of time and all that, so I think I better stop here, otherwise Siddharth is staring at me.
No, I'm not staring at you. Come on. I'm actually reading the comments on the side.
Yeah, so please go ahead.
That's why I've not been thinking. Yeah. I will stop the recording for a moment here, and 1 second.